monsters. Good day to you, partner. I'm Keith, and I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this forsaken cave.
Hey guys, Wheat Solo here, aka the Skeleton King. So, I hope you pay attention to the rolls on that map, because this is actually a really dangerous map. First, we'll start with the fact that Tombs of Zoltan Cool, am I saying that right? Anyways, is a T3 now. So, the map was one of the best speed farming maps in the game, especially for poison. It didn't have, Iraqs, but basically all the enemies, once you had good enough gear, you could kill them very quickly, and the routing was very nice for any class with a good teleport with no cooldown. With it being a T3, it's actually incredibly dangerous. It actually, I think, started out as a T3, or if it didn't, it just got severely nerfed in its original beta. I think it was a T3 originally, actually. Yeah. And then he changed it to T2, and then still had to nerf it more. There's a couple of problems with the map and the mob spawns. They don't seem dangerous, but they actually in conjunction are. Light mages and scarabs do lightning damage. The problem with lightning damage is I actually think there's some beauty in the way the game was balanced around the different elements. So lightning, you can get a lot of lightning absorb on your gear, wisp, etc. Max light res is pretty easy to get as well. But the problem with light is that it has, very high variance of rolls. So even though the game designers gave you a lot of ways to deal with it, if enemies just roll high, you can really notice it with your FHR. Also, side note, lightning can be a hard resist to get for certain builds, just depending on your gear choices. Poison can have this problem. Bone really doesn't, but I think just necromancers in general have a hard time with light res, kind of like pallies in general have a hard time getting poison res. So there's lightning damage, and then there's also a lot of poison damage. So the Iraqs do huge chunks of poison damage that lasts for just basically about ever. If you don't have any PLR, you're really going to feel it. Like basically, if you're just relying on 75 poison res, getting hit by an Iraq feels like dog shit, okay? So we've got poison damage, we've got high variance and lightning damage, and then we have these annoying little bastards called quill rats. Now, I always thought quill rats were kind of overrated and how people were afraid of them, but they really are pretty dangerous. Like, I still think fleshed archers and skeleton archers are more dangerous in a sense, but just the fact that quill rats attack as fast as they do and do such good damage make them very, very dangerous. So the map mods on this map, mop mads, now that it's a very dangerous map as a T3, was minus defense, plus attack rating, a huge amount, high density, 300, right? And he's playing this like it doesn't even matter. His bone armor is probably around 1,800, I'm guessing, maybe a little lower because he does have a lot of life. He might have actually put a few points from energy into Vite. I actually think, as a guy who played Bone, that you actually should put a few more points into Vite because you already get so much scaling just by maxing it that you can drop a few points and put them into Vite, and then you'll basically, the chance you suffer FHR from a random lightning high roll greatly decreases. Like, at playing Bone the little bit I did, I was actually very worried about lightning, which is why I ran double Wisp just to get that extra light absorb. He's picking up items. I think this map he's going to do it in roughly 8 minutes, something like that. Nothing too big, nothing too great. But with picking up items and stuff on a T3 that has pretty dangerous mods, I think he did pretty well. Speaking more about his choices with the build, I'm not the biggest fan of golems. Like, he's using bone armor with blood golems, but he is casting blood warp quite a bit. So I get it. I just think, like, go Ligma, right? Then just put 1 point blood warp. And then you don't need to worry about the life regen as much. So if you've got bone armor, you don't need to ever do that, right? By the way, Fuzzy has always had pretty good map routing, by the way. So you don't need to worry about the life regen. You drop the blood golems, and then you go for revives. I just think revives and bone fit each other better. It really does kind of depend on what your playstyle is. Like if you are running Blood Warp, it is kind of nice just to have blood golems for that. But it's just quality of life. Like it's really not hard to just push a pot, right? Especially as bone with all the defensive abilities you have. But blood golems just like take one more thing off your mind that you have to be worried about, right? So if you're just playing kind of brain dead, then blood golems are probably the right answer. Emilio, of course. Now, as you can see, has Asylum, and if you do not see the aura underneath an enemy, they are not being affected by it. So, for instance, this entire little section right here, a lot of those enemies died and didn't have the Sanctuary aura on them. Or like some of them died and got 1 cast, 2 cast. Now, as you can see, the big fatties, it probably does help. I don't know how much it helps on Quill Rats. We'd have to do some DPS checks, but it seems like the rats who are pretty tanky, etc., it's probably worth it to have Asylum. But in the end, like, what if you just went Act 3, you got yourself, Prayer plus Plague plus Exile. So then you still get Defiance. You also get Cleansing, so you don't have to worry about poison or curses as much. And then you also get that life regen. And then again, you can drop blood golems and go for revives, which have nice damage. In fact, the nice thing about Emilio is you can kill a boss pretty quickly. Act 3 is pretty dog shit at it. But with revives, you can just run Council, who have great single target DPS, obviously. Or you could run, Thrashers, Moonlords, or Ujwars, and just, smash boss packs. And remember, Crushing Blow, quick little side note, is not capped on normal enemies. It is only capped on super uniques and up. So if you run Ujwar and you are facing champs or elites, they are taking Crushing Blow the whole time. It's amazing. Anything else? He's obviously got 125 FCR. He has a lot of plus skills. If anyone asks, large charms are just better. It's pretty easy to figure this out. If you have just mediocre gear, you should already notice that large charms are basically always better. Oh, you're not going to keep that plus 2 cold skill damage? Come on. That thing was fuego. Man, you really need to get the books. Okay, buddy? So the one good thing about this map is it did roll the flares. In-game direction, again, I would go Ligma. He's going to be looking for more plus skills. I don't think he's too concerned about getting a different shield. But I know he does want to get a plus 4 helm, a plus 4 Ami, and then he's pretty much done except for min-maxing or finding one of those just amazing magic or rare-crafted Necro heads. What I would do is again, I would choose Ligma and go with revives, but it is a bit of personal preference. K. Jurgens is a lot of quality of life, gives FHR, excuse me, FCR, and although the build really doesn't need FCR, depending on your gear choices, it could be nice to have that to not have to worry about getting the 125 as much. There's a few expensive items in the game, like a 30 Arachnid Mesh a lot of classes want. Any 30 FCR glove is going to cost you a pretty penny. There's not really much else to say about Bone. I guess the one thing I would say is he should probably cast Spear more. But, I've been watching this the whole time, and Tombs is, just wide enough that Spear is probably rarely the right choice. I kind of want to see him do a T2 or a T1 with more narrow hallways. Well, he's going to show us the gear, and I don't think there's anything honestly standing out on it yet. I'm sorry. I'm not that impressed yet. Actually, I'll take that back. The boots are actually fuego. For only dual res boots, those things are actually nice. But hey, I'm only a nightmare, okay? So I don't really have room to talk. Skull King out, guys.
Come play
GG.
with us. Come play with us, Danny. Forever